have a Samsung abuse.
Okay, hear it. Everyone, today is Tuesday, July 25th, and the board meeting was called to order at 5:15. Today with the board going directly into executive session under the following ORS. ORS 192.6602D to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to carry on labor negotiations. It is now 6:05 p.m. and we are reconvening our meeting with the public session, which is a work session. Okay. We will hold for a minute or so we can get our ASL on the screen and ready. Everyone's here. And then just remind, I guess, this moment for everyone who's here to please speak directly into your microphones to make sure that we have clear audio.
Check one.
And phones on airplane mode. They just picked up where I left. I wasn't captured. Okay, restart.
Test.
Test 1, 2, 3. Test 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? We're having a good day? Don't think so.
Test, can you hear us on that end? All right, we got it. All right. It looks like we have ASL ready. Okay. Are we good to go, or do we do? Okay. All right. Good evening once again. We are going to try this once more. Today is Tuesday, July 25th, and the board meeting was called to order at 5:15. Today with the board going directly into executive session under the following ORS 192.660(2D) to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to carry on labor negotiations. It is now 6:09, and we are reconvening our meeting with a public session, which is a work session, reminding everyone to please speak directly into their mics, and everyone, all of the board members are present this evening. We will go ahead and get started by asking Director Richardson to please read the land acknowledgement, if you may.
We are gathered today on the land of the Calipoola, who are represented by the Confederate tribes of the Grand Ronde and the Confederated tribes of the Split Indians. The relationship between the Calipoola people and this land continues unbroken to this day.
Does it sound like the hear us?
Right up.
Real.
We're gathered today on the land of the Calipoola, who are represented by the Confederate tribes of the Grand Ronde and the Confederate tribes of the Salem Indians. The relationship between the Calipoola people and this land continues unbroken to this day, and we offer gratitude for the land and for the generations present and past who have stewarded the land since time immemorial. We respectfully acknowledge and honor past, present, and future Native American and Indigenous students and staff of Salem-Keizer Public Schools. We invite you to join us in honoring these ancestral grounds and celebrating the resilience and strength of all Native American and Indigenous people. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. May we stand into the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. We'll go ahead and jump into the agenda. Superintendent Castañeda, do we have any agenda modifications this evening?
We have no agenda modifications, but I have a small public service announcement for anyone watching at home. We have done a lot of work on the tech to try to make sure that any difficulty you experienced last time was corrected this time. It still may not be quite right, but we want you to know that we have had multiple teams on the case and are doing our best to fix it.
Alrighty. So with that, we'll start off with our first item on the agenda, which is legislative updates. And I believe you'll introduce us, Superintendent.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So even though I was not technically an Oregonian for it, I do understand it was an energetic session this year. So we're going to go over some of the most important legislation impacting public education today. Dr. West is going to take us through that. I was recently talking to someone who's said that he believed that there were over 500 bills introduced this year that had a potential impact on public education. And so it just gives you a sense of the volume. And to be narrowing it down to 4 is a triumph in and of itself for today. The ones that we're going to review are the ones that have the largest impact on our budget, our operations, and our services to students. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. West.
Great. Thank you, Superintendent Castaneda, Chair Guzman Ortiz, Vice Chairs, Directors, Student Advisor. Good to see you all tonight. As was introduced, I'm going to share with you 4 bills that are important to elevate to your attention. But I want to start by sharing that there were more than 200 bills that the governor actually signed into law. And of those, more than 100 directly or indirectly impact education. So this particular session was very impactful to the overall operations and potentially to the financial stance of the district. And I'll share some of that with you here in just a couple of minutes. The 4 bills that I intend to elevate are Senate Bill 489, Senate Bill 819, House Bill 3198, and then Senate Bill 283. And as I get into them, I'll explain why these particular bills are being elevated. So starting with Senate Bill 489, if you'll change the slide, please. Thank you. So Senate Bill 489 repeals the language in an existing ORS, and the language in the ORS as it's before this was signed into law actually prohibited certain employee groups from claiming unemployment insurance during the summer months when we didn't have school and they were not being paid directly by the district. So that language was repealed and it was replaced with language that says no, they may file for unemployment during that period of time. The change in language does not cover instructional positions, nor does it cover administrators. So primarily the group of staff that are impacted by this are the group that we would refer to as our classified staff. This particular law also removes provisions requiring reasonable assurance of employment for the following school year. As a district, we're examining this law pretty closely. It does have some contract implications. We're looking at our contract specifically around the language of reasonable assurances of employment to make sure that our contract is compliant. This also has potential financial implications. We self-insure. And as a self-insurer, what this may mean for us is an increase of about $10 million in expenditures every year. Now, that assumes, of course, that we have the full number of staff that actually claim unemployment. We won't know that until it plays out for the first time, but this is our best estimate at this time. So pretty significant financial impact for us. Moving on to Senate Bill 819, and this is commonly known as the abbreviated school day law. I'm going to spend a little bit of time here more so than the other bills that have been passed into law because this is a very complex bill. There's a lot included in it, and I want to make sure that you have a basic understanding of the impacts to our school district because they're pretty significant. So Senate Bill 819, the abbreviated school day, when it was passed into law, it created numerous requirements for placing a student on what is known as an abbreviated school day. To define that for you so that you understand, let's take an elementary level as an example. A typical elementary school day is 6.5 hours. We have some students for whom 6.5 hours is a very difficult day. And through a process with an IEP team, an IEP is an individual education plan, through a process with an IEP team, the IEP team, which includes parents, may decide that it is in the best interest of that student to attend a 5-hour school day rather than a 6.5-hour school day. That's just an example. But it's to help you understand what an abbreviated school day is in the context of this particular law. There are a couple of other examples I'll throw out as I go through this, but that gives you a basis. What the law requires is that we must have at least one other reasonable alternative to the abbreviated day offered to students before we get to the abbreviated day. There could be several different options depending on the individual student need. That might include, for example, a self-contained classroom. That might include an alternative placement that is a full day of instruction. There are ways that we can still provide a full day of instruction to some students without moving to an abbreviated day, and the law does require us to examine that before actually moving to the abbreviated day. The other requirement that's pretty significant with this law is that it requires written parent consent. It's important to note that written parent consent must correspond to an IEP meeting, and it must take place repeatedly throughout the school year. It's not a once and done situation. So how this plays out in practice, if you'll switch to the next slide, please. I'm going to paint for you a scenario. An IEP team meets. The IEP team decides that the student would benefit from an abbreviated school day. The parent consents to that abbreviated school day. Maybe it's 30 minutes, maybe it's an hour, but the parent consents. At the time of consent, we obtain from the parent written acknowledgement that they are consenting to the abbreviated school day. What the law requires is that we reconvene that IEP meeting with that parent every 30 days. So every 30 days, there is an IEP meeting that will take place with the parents and the IEP team for students that are participating in an abbreviated schedule. A parent may say, I don't want to meet every 30 days. They have that option. They can extend the length of time between IEP meetings to 90 days. According to the law, what the parent may not do is extend it beyond 90 days. So even if a parent says, I only want to meet with you once a year, I believe this is right, we still have to reconvene at least every 90 days. So there's a 30 to 90 day window during which we have to reconvene the IEP team. The IEP team is not reconvening just to obtain written consent from the parent again. They're charged with doing a couple of things. One, evaluating progress. How is the student progressing towards goals? Two, evaluating if the abbreviated day is still the right placement for the student. Ultimately, we want all students in school all day long. Some students are going to need a step-up plan to obtain that, and that's the purpose of pulling together that team on a regular basis to ensure that students are making progress and that parents still consent to that shortened school day for the student. A parent may revoke consent for their student at any time. They don't need to call an IEP team meeting to revoke consent. If a parent revokes consent, we have 5 days to return the student back to a full day of instruction. What we are doing as a district to address the requirements of this law is that we have pulled together a team of really smart people to tear apart, to really pick apart all of the different components of this law and figure out what the impact is to our system. So we have teams, for example, looking at our student information system to make sure that our student information system will capture what we need to accurately track all of the students who are scheduled for an abbreviated day. We have a team looking at what level of staff training is necessary to make sure that we're compliant with the requirements of this new law. We have a team looking at logistics, things such as transportation, bell schedules at our different schools. So we have many different people from around the organization with disparate job functions that we've pulled together to make sure that as a district, we can fulfill the requirements of this law as quickly as possible. The law was effective upon signing by the governor. It's effective right now. So we've already started to implement some of the aspects of Senate Bill 819, the abbreviated school day law. For example, for those students who were on an abbreviated school day last year, they've already been notified about this law and the requirements associated with the law. We do not yet know the financial implications of this law. Because of its complexity, we expect that there will be some, but until this team fulfills all of their functions and helps us develop the plan to address every requirement, we don't have an estimate at this time. Next slide, please. So this is an important bill that you've already heard a little bit about. It's one that we like to talk about, and that's teaching children to read. This is House Bill 3198. It's the Early Literacy Success Initiative. This particular law does a couple of things for us as a school system and also for us as a state. So the Success Initiative is designed to increase early literacy for students from birth to third grade. So we cover some of those students in pre-K through grade 3. It is a grant. There's a grant associated with it, and I'll talk about that in just a little bit, how that grant will work for us. The literacy plan associated with this particular bill requires culturally specific literacy programs. In addition, there's a community grant associated with this to expand literacy programs for children in elementary grades. So this is a law and an associated grant that is intended to really expand more holistically the way that we support students in their literacy development. The grants are non-competitive grants, and to just pause for a minute here on what that means, we don't have to compete with other districts around the state for the money. The grant will be awarded to our school district based on what's known as ADNW. So it's a weighted formula based on the number of students we have that fit this particular population. Again, it only goes up to grade 3. And then the various weights associated with those students. So for example, we receive a little more money for students that are learning English as an additional language. We receive a little more money for students who are receiving special education services. So all of that is factored into what level of grant that we'll receive. The grant will have very specific rules associated with it for how we spend that money. We haven't seen those rules yet, but we're excited about the fact that receiving this grant will allow us to accelerate literacy development and literacy acquisition for students in grades pre-K through 3. Next slide, please. And then the last one I want to highlight is an omnibus bill. So this particular bill, Senate Bill 283, included many changes to school employee law. There's just a few notable changes that are up on the slide here. It requires us to implement workplace surveys. It has a requirement to examine the way we pay educators who serve special students who are receiving special education. It requires that we implement nonviolent crisis intervention. Some of this you've already heard about in previous meetings. For example, UCARU fits in that category. It requires us to examine our practices related to just cause termination for classified staff. You can see the list there. So there are several requirements included in this omnibus bill that we are currently examining for their implications in our system. Again, we anticipate that there will be some financial impacts as a result of this bill. That has yet to be determined as we look at our current pay practices in relationship to what's required in this law and look at our contract language. You also received tonight, now these are just 4 of the laws that were passed that we felt were really important to elevate because they either have significant implications for our system or because they have significant financial implications for us. But you received tonight as well this packet right here that was prepared by GHR for us, and thank you very much for the work that went into this. This is a comprehensive list of all of the laws that were passed that have direct or indirect impacts on the education system. Pause here for just a minute. You're going to read some things in here that are indirect. For example, there are laws that direct TSP to do some things. That's an indirect impact to us as an educational system, but there's quite a bit in here that will change the way we operate as a school district and have significant implications for us, certainly in the years to come as we figure out how to implement these new requirements. What questions may I answer for you?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Dr. West. I was kind of going through your presentation. The one you talked about abbreviated school days, and you gave the example of children who may have special needs. Now, since these children with special needs also get some federal match of finances. They also have some federal requirement for education, like I was told. So will this come in the way of any of the federal laws, or will it bring down the revenue towards our district because there will be less number of hours in the school building?
Yeah, that's an important question. In the simplest terms that I could put it, ADM can get a little complicated. So I'm try to keep this at a pretty simple level. If a student's day is reduced such that it becomes a fraction of a normal day, and I'll give you an example. A fifth grade student for whom the IEP team decides the student does best in the morning, but by lunchtime really needs to go home and finish out their day in some other way. That full ADM that we had been receiving prior to that IEP meeting and that decision would be reduced to 0.5 ADM. As we start to reduce ADM for students based on decisions related to abbreviated day, that will ultimately have an impact on our funding. Now, funding is lagging, so it's not an immediate impact when we make those decisions, but that is something that down the road will have an impact on our system. I want to emphasize, though, that these decisions that we make are not made with funding in mind. When we make a decision that a student would benefit from less time at school, it's because the IEP team believes that the student needs to spend less time at school to experience their best educational day.
Follow-up clarification. Will that conflict with any of the federal laws that require children have education by having these abbreviated days like IDEA or one of those federal protections that children have for education?
No, a decision for an abbreviated day fits within placement decisions, and an IEP team does have the right to make that decision. What this law does is it places additional requirements on a school district for how we monitor and respond to that abbreviated day decision and work with parents to fulfill it.
Thank you.
Director Richardson, question?
Yeah.
Yes.
Are there plans in place for those parents that don't have transportations to get to the IEP, or those parents that cannot take off work to come to the IEP? What are we doing about that? And parents who don't read or write or speak the language, are we taking all of that into account?
Yeah, we do that already in our IEP meetings. One of the things we learned through COVID that is still in place at times is that we can hold a meeting remotely if a parent can't make it in person, and many of our parents do choose that option. So that is one option. We have interpreters at our meetings whenever they're needed. We translate materials when that is needed. So there are already those things in place. I do think it's important to note, based on the scenarios that you just laid out, that if a family member who has educational rights to make a decision for a student does not participate in an IEP meeting, that is considered a revocation of consent, at which point the student would then return to a full day of instruction in whatever format they were experiencing previously.
Thank you. I think for this piece, could you share a little bit, and maybe this isn't the place, I don't know, I'm just going to put it out there, a little bit of the why behind this law? I think there's that, why in terms of what we know and why this is important for us. I think if you could ground us a little bit in that piece.
Yeah, that's a fantastic setup. I love that question. Thank you. This is the right conversation to have. We want students in school all day, every day. That's the goal. And we have situations, and by we, I'm speaking globally as an education system. I'm not specifying that Salem-Keizer in any way is different than other districts out there. But as an education system, we have situations whereby a school team has made a decision about an abbreviated day that perhaps the parent didn't agree with, or perhaps that decision was reached in haste and they could have tried some other interventions, before moving directly to an abbreviated school day that could have worked for the student. If you listen to the testimony on, at the Capitol here, as the hearings were taking place specific to this bill, you would hear parent stories how they felt like their voice wasn't listened to during the IEP process. My sense is from listening to many of the parent testimonies that the bill is a response to those situations. And that is the right conversation for us to have. Where does parent voice fit into the IEP conversation? How do we honor that and still provide the best education we possibly can for a student? The letter of the law has some implications for our system, likely some unintended implications that have yet to play out, that will have financial implications as well. We have yet to figure that out. But that, I believe, is what has brought us to this place. Does that answer your question?
Thank you, Dr. Rest. Yes, and it just wanted to spend at least a minute in that, right? Because it is important as I'm reading it, and it's, I hear a little bit of, well, there's this continuing work and the implications that come with it, but the why behind it is really important, right? And is leaning in on that even as we kind of go into the uncharted and the unknown. So thank you.
Well said.
Go ahead. Just jump in.
Just really quickly, I wanted to say thank you for jumping in so quickly to start the implementation of Senate Bill 819. I think it was, a very, I don't want to use the word contentious, but that's what comes to mind. It was, there was a lot of passion, I think, around this bill. And I mean, I really, truly believe that, it's the right thing to do to make sure that kids can be in school for as many hours as possible. They have that right to a full-blown, wonderful, well-rounded education. And it took a lot of hard work, I think, by like the Oregon School Boards Association, working with a number of the folks on the Legislative Policy Committee and individual meetings with legislators to really get to a place where this bill could pass. And I just want to, personally thank Senator Gelser-Bluen for her passion around this bill and for kids with disabilities in general to get to where we are. I think this will be a really good place to have an ongoing conversation as we continue to implement it. And I really look forward to being part of that conversation.
Dr. Hudson?
Same. Also, I was curious about a little elaboration on the hours of time, just a little. So we talked about deduction. So for example, the kids might be in 6.5 hours in an elementary day, and this is adjustable. Is there any cap, really, as far as we talked about possibly the law being that there has to be at least one other plan in place, and one would be removal into a different room or a different school? Have they structured that much detail yet to where there may be a cap, or is that clear?
The law doesn't specify a minimum number of instructional hours because that's so unique to each student. Another example I can provide is that we have some students that are generally classified as receiving homebound instruction. Some of those students may only be able to participate in an hour or two of education per day based on what their medical needs are in that moment. So it's probably wise that the bill doesn't have a minimum threshold because the unique needs of each student are so varied. Mm-hmm. The goal of the law, I believe, as we've said a couple of times here, and thank you, Director Carson Cottingham, for pointing this out, is that we want kids in school for the maximum amount of time that they are able to successfully participate every single day that we have schools open. That is the goal that we are working towards, and that includes our homebound and students receiving homebound instruction just as much as it does for those students for whom they just need an hour or two break during the day and they're working back towards the school day.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, Director Chandra.
Thank you very much. So, this is a, thank you, Ashley, for sharing this, because this was supposed to come, I guess, last time, and then my Senator Salem-Keizer had to bring it back again this time and kind of came back. I think the question I have is, with this law, with the abbreviated one, does it specifically focus on children who have disability or special need, or does the law have any jurisdiction over children who are not receiving disability or IEP, etc.? Because this could, and the second piece is, if they have abbreviated, will it count against them towards graduation eventually if you don't have so many hours of instructional time over the course of 12 years?
Yeah, the law does apply specifically to students who are receiving special education services or whom have a 504 plan. So those are two related plans. One is typically medical in nature, a 504 plan, versus an IEP, which is typically related to some sort of specialized learning. So it's very specific in that regard. In terms of graduation requirements, graduation is based on the number of credits that you earn. And those credits, in some cases, are tied to the amount of time that you have in school, but not always. Interestingly, one of the, I think, unintended impacts of this bill, of this new law, is that a student who is being served with an IEP or a 504 plan who has a release period at high school. And a release period means you have a free period. Those of us who went through high school, maybe some of us had a release period when we were in high school. So students who have a release period at high school who are being served with an IEP or who have a 504 plan and have not yet earned all of their graduation requirements, the requirements of 819 apply to them. So we have to have an IEP team meeting before we can allow them to have a release period. We have to reconvene that team on a regular basis to make sure the student is still progressing towards their goals. In your example, graduation would be one of those goals. We have to renew parent consent in each one of those meetings.
So in such cases, will they be offered summer classes or year-round class or something to catch up? Because don't want, I mean, the worry parents will have is, will they be left behind because of this?
No, I think what you would find if you were to dig into any of our high school environments is that release periods are not granted to students who are not on track. I think it's an important distinction with this particular law that it specifies that the requirements of the law must be followed if the student has not already earned all the credits needed to graduate. That is not the same thing as being on track necessarily. So we have students that are on track to graduate that we have little concern will reach graduation that we grant release periods to. They don't need summer school. Some may opt into it, but they don't need summer school to fulfill their graduation requirements. For those students who need it, summer programs are absolutely available. We do everything that we can to help students to graduate.
Thank you. Director Hinojosa-Presi, I believe you have a question?
I mean, I do have questions, but I don't necessarily think that it's something that could be answered right now. It's probably going to be something that's going to get put up to legal advice. But I did want to surface it in this omnibus school employee law. I'm just going to be really interested in seeing on some of these sections. Like I'm looking at the special education section, the second bullet about a district that employs classified school employees who provide significant special education support. Just what do they mean by significant?
Yeah. So glad you brought that up. It's important for us to remember that typically when laws are written, especially when those laws are associated with an agency like the Department of Education, it falls on the agency to write rules for how to actually implement the law. So questions like that may be clarified with the rules that have yet to be written. The legislative session just ended on June 25th, so this is very fresh. So rules may help us with that. In the absence of rules, we have legal interpretation. And that's what we're falling back on right now as we start to do the work of really digging into this and figuring out what the implications are for our system. I think the one that you're referencing there is the one that says that our classified staff can't work less than 5 hours in a shift if they're significantly serving special education students. We need to figure out what that means for us, and if we're fulfilling the requirements already, and if not, what we do.
I just wanted to surface it 'cause I will be interested to see some of the rules on these, because there's a lot of that language, a lot of significant, appropriate.
We're interested in seeing those rules too.
Thank you.
Legally. All right. Thank you so much, Dr. West. I
Welcome.
don't see any more questions, and we are right on track and on schedule, so we can proceed on to the next agenda item, which we have allocated a significant amount of our time this evening for, and that is on restorative practices. So I'll turn this over to Superintendent Castañeda to share a little bit of context and get us going.
Thank you so much. This is a presentation that I think is one many of you have been waiting for, and also a really important one in helping us share an even and well-informed understanding of restorative practices. And while the past presentation was also important, it was important for understanding, and also it's a policy requirement of this board to receive a legislative update. The one that Deputy Superintendent, hang on a sec, I practiced his last name like 3 times today. Udo Sanata.
Udo Sanata.
Udo Sanata. Thank you. The one that he has prepared for us is really responsive to unique questions that you all have had about restorative practices. And we're also spectacularly happy to be welcoming 2 principals who will also be adding, I think, a unique perspective about what restorative practices look like in the classroom and in the building. And between the 2, I hope we leave with a clear understanding of what it is, why it matters, where we are in training and implementation, and I think by the end also a more clear understanding of what restorative practices is not, which is a part of setting the stage for really clear and shared understanding of its function in our system. So I think with that, I will turn it over.
So good evening, Chair Guzman-Ortiz, Superintendent Castañeda, directors of the board, and student advisors, welcome. I'm going to provide, as Superintendent Castañeda shared, an updated presentation on restorative practices and how they function in our schools. We have, so real quick, restorative practices are a behavior intervention that serve as a mechanism for positive school culture, and we began our restorative practices journey in the summer of 2020. Now, even though we've only been doing this for 3 years, restorative practices have been something that schools nationwide have been taking on for quite some time now. And I also wanted to start just by showing what restorative practices look like in a school that uses them as a conflict resolution tool when they do the restorative circles. So, Aaron, if you can cue that video.
First, I'm going to read a quote. To succeed, you must first improve. To improve, you must first practice. Young people have to be given space to grow and to feel like, okay, I made a mistake, but from this learning experience, I can continue to become better. To learn, you must first fail.
When you're talking about student discipline, a lot of times we are punitive because it's faster and restorative takes more time. But restorative practices are better long-term. So at Procone, we have a place called The Zone, which we use in lieu of suspension.
Welcome to The Zone.
It's a collaborative space where kids get into a circle and they discuss what their behaviors were and ways to correct it.
We have The Zone every morning from 7 to 9 a.m. Today, we had 8 students in The Zone. We're here today to talk about how to make things right when we make mistakes, poor choices. Usually the infractions are cell phone use, disrespect, cursing, but it could also be that there was an argument in a classroom or more aggressive behaviors that also get sent to us. So even though you had a conflict that brought you here, if we can bring our best selves to this circle, we can get a lot done, we can learn from each other. When students come in, we go over circle guidelines so that there are agreements that we hold within this space. What does it mean to listen from the heart?
You're trying to feel like you're relating to the situation.
It's like showing respect to them.
Once we teach them really what the zone is and how this is not a space where there's a power dynamic between you and another person, then they kind of disarm and we get to what's causing that behavior.
I had somebody come to me and tell me that a friend said something bad about me. Most of the time when you're in trouble, you get a referral and you have a consequence. They don't really want to hear your side of the story.
Well, what happened?
When you come into zone, they have a conversation with you and they kind of tell you how to solve your problem the positive way. I was able to go to her and work it out.
We're really just trying to get context. Whenever there's a conflict, right, both parties contribute to the conflict, right? Although you may not feel like you contributed to the problem, you played a piece in it. And that's a part of the social emotional learning that we're trying to get them to see. We really want to have a discussion about the things you can control.
I just need to catch myself and know my surroundings.
It is a place for students to process their role in it, understanding who is harmed, but then also understanding that it's okay to reflect on what you as a student needed in that situation.
I don't need anything from others to make it right because I can be mature on my own.
But how can we help you in the maturing process? Because we're going to be here too. What I usually say is I don't want to change your behavior. I want you to think about it before you do it. Really, I've seen them becoming very intentional about what they do, what they say.
Everybody has to own up to their consequences.
And that's the whole purpose of the zone.
By me owning it, it's going to help me better.
Thank you, Aaron. Now, the reason we chose that video is because it does such a good job of illustrating the way that restorative circles and restorative practices function in our schools. So, as you saw in the video, restorative practices is about students restoring relationships with their peers, and students restoring relationships with the staff members too at times. And it's about students understanding what their impact is and how they can contribute to a overall positive school culture. And importantly, restorative practices is about giving students the tools to work through their conflicts, to work through their emotions, so that these skills of having interpersonal conversations and using words through these restorative practices go beyond the classroom. And so just some background on restorative practices. Restorative practices were actually derived from indigenous teachings. And then in the 70s, they became part of the judicial system. And then in the last 10 to 15 years, they've really there's been a proliferation of restorative practices in public schools. And I think the reason that it's really catching on is because we're seeing that it's adding to this idea of going away from being exclusively punitive to supporting students and helping them understand that there's a way to come back from having a negative experience that has resulted in a punishment. I want to be really clear that restorative practices is not a substitute or replacement for our traditional discipline practices. Those are still very much in place. But now, instead of having a student perhaps serve an in-school suspension for fighting, for instance, or being an out-of-school suspension or even an expulsion, just doing that and then having them go back into the school environment. Instead, what we do is we have them do some really deep reflection. We have them understand what the root cause was for that conflict, and then we give them, the instructors and teachers give them tools, or behavior specialists, give them tools to make things better with themselves, make things better with others, and then reintegrate them into the school. And we think that's really powerful. So if we can go to the next slide. So we focus on the 5 R's with restorative practices. That's first, restoring relationships. having students take responsibility for their actions, repairing harm done to relationships and the harm done in classrooms. So if there's a significant event that impacts the greater school community or a classroom, restorative practice is about repairing the harm done to that space. And then, importantly, finding a way to reintegrate students into a space in a way that's fruitful and accepting. So if we can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So in Salem-Keizer Public Schools, when we began our restorative practices journey, we started by partnering with a group called the International Institute for Restorative Practices. That's IIRP. You may have heard us mention them a few times throughout previous presentations. And they really supported us with the training that our schools needed for for restorative practices, guidance in how we rolled it out within our schools, and ongoing coaching for schools that were school-wide IIRP schools or restorative practice schools. And in our rollout in 2020, we started small. We started with a handful of schools, some elementary schools, and then middle schools. And then we scaled our rollout to add more schools, and we're going to show those schools in a minute. But one thing that we also did is we trained all of our behavior specialists, and this happened over the course of a couple of years. We trained safety specialists, counselors, administrators on how to use restorative practices so that we can use those tools when events occurred in schools that were not district-wide restorative practice schools. So on the next slide, you'll see a list of the the schools that are full restorative practice schools. So you'll see a handful of middle school or elementary schools, and then some mostly middle schools with CTEC and Roberts practicing. Now I want to be really clear that if a school's not on this list, that does not mean that they're not engaging in restorative practices. And we have a principal here who's the principal of a school that's not on this list, and they do a lot of work around restorative practices. And that's why that third column is really important, which is the K-12 training, because we want to create a culture district-wide where our behavior specialists, our campus safety specialists, our counselors, our principals all knew how to use and implement restorative practices. That way, when an event occurred, they would be able to support. Can you go to the next slide? Oh, there we go. Thank you very much. So this right here is the flow of what our restorative practices look like. We did have some resources, some materials and coaching from IIRP where we participate in a variety of school-wide activities related to restorative practices. So those might look like restorative circles or a restorative conference. But in general, this flow chart represents the principles that should accompany any activity that's related to restorative practices. So first off, if it's a conflict, understanding why a behavior was inappropriate and how harm was caused. And then it flows through to those 5 R's, right? With the end being students really understanding the importance of repair and making sure that they take actions to restore relationships with others and repair the space where harm was caused. And so next slide, please. We have 2 guests today who are, I'm really excited about their presentation because they're going to be able to show how restorative practices really looks a lot better than I can from my seat. And so at the podium right now, we have our principal of McKay High School. It's Renee Queering. So Renee, welcome to the podium, and please share how restorative practices look like at McKay High School.
Good evening. Thank you, Chair Guzman, Superintendent Castaneda, directors of the board and student advisor. I appreciate your time to let me talk about the restorative work that's happening at McKay. Are you my clicker? Thanks. Okay. At McKay, we function with some key principles in place when we think about students and behavior. Learning does not happen without relationships. Behavior is communication. Conflicts involve more than one person. And we follow the 5 R's that Dr. Udo Sanata shared in his part of the presentation. You can click, please. We have 3 significant processes that we use at McKay High School on a fairly regular basis. Our first is related to restorative conversations. So if you can think with me, a student has a version of a behavior that's unwanted in the location that it's at. Our behavior specialist or an adult works with them to find out the why, the what, who's involved. In addition, they have those separate people conversations to learn more about every side that's involved. And then we incorporate a restorative conversation option. Restorative conversations shouldn't happen unless the people involved elect to take part of it, because you're asked to be pretty vulnerable in the space when you're in those. We follow the 5 questions that are offered in a restorative conversation, which are: what happened? What were you thinking of at the time? What have you thought of since? Who has been affected by what you have done and in what way? And then what do you think you need to do to make things right? So if you can imagine 2 or more people who've had an instance or an issue together are sitting together having this deep conversation using those questions. Both parties are sharing their perspective. They listen to learn from the other person, and they're working to make an agreement to move forward out of the conflict. We frequently have relationship check-ins after restorative conversations to make sure that all of the people involved are getting what they need to maintain positive work at school. We also use what we call readmit meetings. I'm rethinking the name right now, but readmit meetings, which we have with students and families who may have been in out-of-school suspension or expulsion for significant reasons. We invite parent, student, behavior specialist, administrator, and any other specialists that need to be present to first welcome them back, talk about their strengths and how they add to our school for their own success. We talk about guidelines and plans they might think that they need. We establish the expectations they have of us and that we have of them so that they can start back to school successfully, since their last experience may not have been great. The final piece that we use the process is called community conversations. We often find social groups that either have internal conflict amongst them, or they might have some conflict with other social groups. We will work with an adult who wants to mentor them. They get them into a space all together. They share their perspectives. They're honest about what they're feeling related to the conflicts within the group or without of the group. And then they talk about how they can work through the frustrations that they have so that they learn about the perspectives of other people and they can continue to be in that social group but maintain what it needs to look like at school for safety and for relationships with others. That would be excellent.
Actually, I'm going to make one small edit to that. Why don't you come sit here? That will just be a little bit awkward, but you're actually a central person here, so I want to make sure you stay at the mic.
Okay, so I would like to, is this all right? Am I good? Okay. I have 2 scenarios to share with you so you can think about what these would look like related to what you know about restorative practices. A student-to-student issue. You can imagine this. You may have been involved in one of these in your time in school. 2 students get into an altercation. At this point, it's just verbal. They didn't know each other ahead of time. There's some social media going on, and they've not yet become physical, but they're close. After the incident that takes place, a behavior specialist talks to each student, gets the information about who, what, why is this going on, and then in their conversation with each student, they learn that each of them could have handled it differently. They have the skills to handle it differently, but social media and peer pressure were way heavy, and they had to do something. So once they've each de-escalated, the behavior specialist asks, would you like to have a conversation with the other person? They each say in their own meetings with these behavior specialists, you mean we can do that? Yes, you can. So the behavior specialist conducts a restorative conversation with both students. They sit down together, they walk through the 5 questions that we use in restorative conversations. They have the opportunity to agree that each of them could have handled it differently, and they walk away with an agreement about how they're going to deal with each other when they're experiencing pressure from their peer group or they're hearing more things on social media. Now, when those 2 students see each other in the hallway, they're dabbing, which apparently means they have a special handshake. So they're doing much better. Now we have another example. We have a student and teacher. So our restorative conversations don't just apply to students. We have a situation here where there's some miscommunication and misunderstanding about if you can joke around in a class or not. There are buttons being pushed, but we don't really know what the buttons are. So a student gets kicked out of class with a referral because they have been inappropriate. The behavior specialist does their work, asking the questions to learn more about the why, and the student explains that they don't understand why they couldn't joke around like they were joking around because they thought you could. There isn't an awareness that they've really tripped a trigger for the teacher and that it was really inappropriate at the time. So the behavior specialist then says there's some missing links here. They go and talk to the teacher, and it becomes very clear that neither the student nor the teacher have a clear understanding about how they want to operate with each other in the classroom. Do you want to have a restorative conversation? Yes, we do. They sit down together, they talk through what their perspectives were, they learn what the other person needed in the situation, and they are able to come away with an agreement that some kinds of joking are fine, some are not. And if we have an issue in the future, what we will do is step out into the hall during an appropriate time and talk through what each of us needed to make sure that we don't keep writing a referral or kicking the student out and essentially breaking the relationship. So from that point on, the student was not kicked out with a referral. The teacher and the student were able to kind of talk through what they needed at the time. So I want to thank you again for the time to discuss this. I think that the key ingredients students keep telling us is they're very thankful for the time they have and are allowed to think through what's going on, to process with someone that they feel safe with, and then to be able to decide what they need, because that's hard to talk about, and then be able to share how they can add to a problem-solving routine or agreements they need to make with people.
We have one more presentation. Is it possible that we can get to them? And then I have like a 1-minute wrap up, and then we'll be ready for questions. And our principal is going to be on standby to answer questions, correct? Excellent. Thank you. So thank you so much, Principal Query. And we have our principal from Hauk Middle School, Rosa Diaz Avery.
Good evening, Chair Guzman Ortiz, Superintendent Castañeda, Directors of the Board, and Student Advisor. My name is Rosa Diaz Avery. I'm principal at Hauk Middle School, and I'm going to share how restorative practices work at Hauk. Hauk was an early adopter of the restorative practices in Salem-Keizer in 2020. In October 2022, all Hauk teachers were trained on restorative practices, while others received a refresher who had been previously trained in 2020. Last year was my first year as principal of Hauk, and we were on our 3rd year of using restorative practices. It is a school-wide practice with Tier 1, 2, and 3 strategies. Let me give you a quick example. A Tier 1 strategy is community building. It's used to strengthen relationships, create a sense of community, connections, and equity of voice for both students and teachers. An example of a Tier 2 strategy is a harm conflict circle, where we bring in all affected parties together to discuss conflict, harm, and figure out what needs to happen to move forward in a good way. Tier 3 strategy is a reentry or a welcome circle. It's restorative reintegration from expulsion or suspension to school in a caring way that identifies supports for students so that they can be successful at school and beyond. At HALC, restorative practices are not only used to give students tools for productive conflict resolution, but they are also used for teachers to understand how students are feeling. At HALC, restorative circles take place in all advisory classes, and we also have a full-time restorative classroom to respond to incidents in the moment. Teachers do restorative circles with their students on Mondays and Wednesdays during advisory, which are the first 20 minutes of the first period. The purpose of these restorative circles are to proactively build community within the classroom and to teach students the strategies they will need to express themselves when a challenging situation arises either within their advisory class or outside their advisory class. In these circles, the teacher and students all stand up, form a circle, and use a talking piece. So the person with the talking piece speaks while the rest of the students listen from the heart. At any time, if the student receives the talking piece, they can pass. But when it comes again, they are encouraged to share. In the beginning, the questions for these circles are of high interest and easy for students to answer. For example, which chips are better, Takis or hot Cheetos? Most students say Takis. Okay. So, once students have had enough time to talk, once students have had enough time to practice and feel comfortable, then the questions are more in-depth. Which person in your life are you able to talk with when you need advice and why? These questions help kids hone the practice of verbalizing their feelings, which is something that our middle schoolers need and don't know how to do, so provides them that practice. So throughout the entire school year, these circles were done during advisory classes and slowly became a part of the content area classes where teachers used the Socratic method to ask students questions about the content, got students to participate and be invested in their own learning. At HALC, we also have a restorative classroom that was run by an instructional mentor who was our restorative teacher and a behavior cadre who were both trained on restorative practices. This classroom was or is for when a student has a conflict or an incident has occurred. So the purpose of the restorative classroom is to give students the opportunity to reflect on the harm they did, think on how they would repair the harm, and actually repair the harm through a restorative circle or conversation that was either facilitated by the restorative teacher or the behavior cadre. When students come to the restorative classroom, the facilitator asks them the following questions. What happened? What were you thinking at the time? What have you thought about since? Who has been affected by what you have done? In what way? And what do you think you need to do to make things right? The teacher or the cadre schedules a restorative circle, which is a conversation between the student who did the harm and the student who was harmed. They engage in the circle with the goal of repairing the harm and coming up with a plan to move forward. Because of restorative practices at HALC, I'm seeing a change in our culture. Students and teachers feel heard and valued and are building relationships that are the cornerstone of our HALC familia. Restorative practices are teaching our students and staff to have empathy towards each other and embrace forgiveness. If you remember being in middle school, some of us had a lot of we don't forgive easily. So it is also helping students learn from their mistakes and feel connectedness to their school. Some of the next steps to strengthen restorative practice for this upcoming school year is to be more intentional in our use of restorative circles via a school-wide tier system and streamline the process of documentation to make all staff aware of which students have been involved in a restorative circle, how to recommend students to a restorative circle, and how teachers can schedule restorative conversations with their students. So when we do a circle, we say, are we ready to circle up? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Principal Diaz-Avery. So just to wrap up, there's a couple things that I want to add. First is what's the next steps for restorative practices? So we're differentiating what we do at the secondary level versus what we do at the elementary level. And I think I skipped a slide, but that's okay. So we're differentiating what we do at each level. And at the elementary, we're going to continue to use foundational restorative practice supports for those schools who have already implemented restorative practices, but really focus on positive behavior supports. And at the secondary level, we're going to continue to strengthen our restorative practices in buildings and introduce some new strategies that really help with the practices of restorative. An example of a strategy that we could introduce that I've used in a different building is having students process when they've done harm through the practice of writing. Writing, and then in that space, they understand the 5 R's, and then they sometimes will write a letter to the person they've done harm to. And if they're up to it, they read the letter or communicate what's on that letter to the person as part of a restorative conversation. That happens often with teachers as well. And that's the conversation that happens before a student's readmitted into a class after there was harm done. So those are examples of strategies that are done. Something that I want to share a little bit, because I think some might be wondering, is what impact has this had on our student behavior systems, right? We know that restorative practices in and of themselves isn't a magic pill that will reduce bad behavior and all of a sudden we're going to not have suspensions or not have behavior offenses. But what we have seen is in Rosa's school, for instance, Rosa's over here now. In Rosa's school, for instance, some trending down of mid and minor behavior offenses, which is a positive sign because that means students are out of school less or out of the classroom less, and in the classroom more, learning and engaging, and that's where we want them to be. We do see that suspensions are down a little bit, and we know that restorative practices is a factor, but it's not the only thing that impacts suspensions. What it does tell us, though, is that our Tier 1 and Tier 2 practices are starting to take shape. We know that when students came back to school after the pandemic, behaviors were elevated. And I think restorative practices are an essential piece in helping students get the skills that they need to self-regulate. And remember that these tools are very important. These skills that they learn from the restorative practices are very important when they go on to become grown-ups. And because we know that the conflicts aren't going to go away interpersonally in their personal lives or in the professional setting. So we want to really work to help them understand ways that they can work through these conflicts in their formative years. And the last thing that I want to say before we open it up for questions is that we've been doing this for about 2-ish years now, and we're starting to see incremental change. But like any human behavior, and Superintendent Castaneda and I were trying to find the right analogy. We were talking about cigarettes and smoking and lung cancer and ashtrays and ways that things gradually got better to where we have less of a presence of cigarettes to, I was thinking of a flossing analogy and how that really helps your overall dental health, but it's not just the flossing. But whatever it is, any social change that you want to make, it takes time and it'll happen over time. And we feel really good about this. We feel optimistic about what we're seeing with some of these restorative practices. And that doesn't mean it's perfect, but I think it's a lot better than what things looked like when I was in school 20 years ago. So thank you for your time, and I'm ready for questions.
Director Carson Cunningham had.
Thank you. Thank you all for this presentation. It was really helpful to hear what's happening, all the good work around implementation. This feels really quiet, but okay. So my first question is just, what does the intersection look like between restorative practices and discipline? So like principal querying, in your example, let's say what the student did to the educator was something that required discipline. So can you walk us through how those paths kind of go along parallel, just for the public and parents and everybody to understand a little better?
I think that it's an excellent question, and it becomes pretty complex because it has a lot to do with who is the student, what is their capacity to be able to share what they need, what the problem was. So our staff that are trained to help with these things do a lot of work related to, is this student ready for this kind of conversation? If not, how can I prepare them? In this particular situation, the way that we talk about, is it a restorative practice thing or is this a discipline thing, is we have, it's all about the time when the behavior specialist or the adult is trying to learn more about what happened. So if the adult in the scenario who's talking with the individuals involved identifies that this is actually a misunderstanding, the student's intent was not to be disrespectful, they did not understand why it felt disrespectful to the teacher, we have an opportunity to apply restorative practices, because what we need to have happen is the student then understands how is the teacher impacted by what they did when they didn't understand really what the boundaries were. So we have some pieces that we work to identify, are they ready? Is this something that fits here or there? I would say an accompanying piece with our restorative practices work is we have some matrices that we can follow. Our behavior specialists, our assistant principals who are responsible for behavior, typically have a very good handle on what is considered a major offense or a minor offense. And in those cases, they are more likely to be able to sort what the behavior would lean to. Is it a restorative practices piece where they need the processing time to come to learning about what they need to do differently? Or is this something where what they've done is pretty serious and we need to have some more time with them? They might not be ready to go back into the same setting.
Thank you. One follow-up. Is that okay? So just so I'm clear, because I'm learning all of this as we go, when it's a behavior that falls into that very serious category, let's say, is there still an opportunity presented to a child or youth to engage in restorative practices post-discipline? And how might that look? Yes,
I would say definitely there is always that option, particularly if the student is given the option and they want to take it. As I stated in my presentation, all of the parties have to agree to do that. So if the parties are ready to do some restorative work, we've had behavior specialists work with multiple students at a given time to support them to have the conversations they need to have after some pretty serious things that a student or more have done. And so it's the same process. Typically, there's probably been a consequence as a result of the discipline work that we need to do, but we always will give them the opportunity to do some repair work, because the piece of the work is I need my students to feel like they want to be in my building, they're cared for in my building, and we will work with them when they make mistakes. Now, some mistakes are egregious and shouldn't happen in a public space, but I need them to know that you could make that mistake, you can have your consequence, and it doesn't mean we don't want you here. It means that we need you to understand why you don't do that. And if you're coming back into this space, these are the ways we want you to feel like you can be successful.
Thank you very much.
Director Chandra.
Well, thank you very much, Chair. And thank you, principals. This is wonderful presentation. It looks like the entire community can, not just students, but looks like the whole community in such a divisive time can gain a lot by practicing this restorative practice at every level. There's a board or community or lead public officials all the way. So the question that I really think is, this is such a wonderful opportunity. I mean, it's almost like changing the community norms in your school, and you're practicing it. Are we including the families and parents so that they also can, literally practice at home, so that it gets hardwired?
Can I jump in on that one real quick? So sorry to jump in, but so right now our focus on the restorative practices is really centered on what we can do within the school and the greater school community. So at this point, we really try to work with the students on what they've done within the school community. Now, when there is a infraction or a discipline issue, our principals always reach out to the parents, and then they go through a process of helping the student, that's when we build the family in, and almost like a partnership to make sure that they understand what the student did that was wrong, and then also work with the family if there's a pattern of problematic behavior. They work with the families on how we can start working on that and setting some goals for the students as well.
The tier 1 practice, which you do it without a problem behavior, right? As a proactively you practice creating the norm and skills.
Correct.
Is there a role for parents and families to learn and practice, or at least have a way to
Not yet.
it at home?
Not yet. Right now, it's really just focused on the students.
Is it now? Does this get in, just like we have discipline, does this become part of our policy, so that like a handbook or policy, so families can read and, so that they know what is being practiced in school?
Yeah, right now our restorative practices are just like a supplemental behavior strategy and tool, so they're not a policy. Thank you.
I would love to add here, though, that I think this last couple set of questions has really hovered over the top of misinformation and confusion about restorative practices, and the idea that it is a complement to a thoughtful discipline policy is a really important one. And in many of our conversations, we've probably heard people say things like, well, they do restorative practices instead of disciplining students. I do think that it is about teaching students how to be in a community and teaching adults how to be in that community with them. It doesn't mean that there aren't ruptures, and it doesn't mean that there aren't consequences, but it does provide a path to reintegration, which is not always present in traditional, well, you said schools of 20 years ago, the ones that many of us might have gone to. So that is an important, I think, complement to this moment. And then the second thing I would add is really related to the family side. And while we're really working on building this capacity inside of our school system right now, I think that there is, around tier 1, there is a place for parents to understand the basic expectations about school. And I'm sure that this is true at McKay. Parents, if they wish to know, you would have a very simple explanation for what you expect of your students every day that they walk through the doors. I've been in your building, so I've seen it all over the walls. Those are ways that parents can really support the work of schools by understanding there's usually, it's like 5 basic expectations. And when there is an issue, checking back against those in addition to collecting the story that our youth often tell us at the dinner table.
Director Hudson.
You could tell. I do also want to very much thank you for the presentation. Thank you again. It was very good. And thank you also, as I had multiple questions that did get answered throughout most of that and the questioning. Very good. So some of mine, kind of just a reiteration for clarification. One of them, back when you said the discipline point, whenever there's discipline involved, the parents are contacted, so you bring in the whole aspect of each area trying to help the student. But then it sounded like, I was just wondering if that falls under the tier 1, 2, and 3 for sure, under like discipline. Would those be instances, any one of those individually where the home would be reached out to? It sounded like your answer was no earlier, but then I wasn't sure. So does that make sense. Could you clarify a little?
So, yeah, so with discipline issues, are parents contacted? Is that the question?
Yeah, so when we were talking about when the family, specifically that particular piece in that question was brought in, you said we're trying to keep things kind of in-house.
Oh, I see what you're saying, yeah.
Interpretation, understanding, and then you said, however, when there's discipline involved, they are reached out to. So are those different or are they the same?
Yeah, they're different. So we're just talking about restorative practices in and of themselves, and so there's actually a slide that's up there that shows the examples of of the practices that are used in schools. So when we do restorative practices at Hauk, parents aren't involved in that, right? When we do the restorative circles on Mondays and Wednesdays, that's not something that parents are typically involved in, or maybe in the student-to-student conversation where we have a behavior specialist who might be facilitating a conversation. That's normally between the student and student, and you don't typically have a parent present in that conversation. Now, there's other circumstances outside of restorative practices, just school issues, where we bring parents in all the time to help solve problems. And so I just want to make sure that we're separating those two, one being the actual restorative practice versus situations where we would bring a parent in whenever.
Okay, so thanks. So for clarification, to get a little more specific, back earlier when we were talking about altercations and whether they're physical or not, so then they went to restorative practice techniques afterwards. If there were, say, a physical altercation between student, parent, or teacher and student or whichever, then would that initially? Yes, it would.
A parent would be contacted. Yeah, so if there was a physical altercation or even like a significant conflict that we thought was getting pretty close, we contact parents and let them know what happened that day.
Very good, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Chair?
Oh, yes.
Thank you. One question is, do you track these students who are, particularly the ones who are one-to-one, if those relationships do always take place, like how often? Because you said that they are dabbing, but how often is that happening? How often are these students repeating the one-to-one engagement practices there?
I don't have specific percentages for you or specific numbers, but what we do know is I would refer to what Rosa was sharing about tiers 1, 2, and 3. Typically, when we have students who we would consider our tier 2 students or tier 3 students, they might be students who are repeatedly needing to have those conversations simply because they're trying to figure out where does my behavior fit, or they are not understanding or learning about what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. So we do have some students that our behavior specialists speak with much more frequently and work with much more frequently than they do the mass, like 80% of our student population. But our tracking system would be either through, we do have student logs in our computer system that we would follow to make sure we track who has been meeting with whom and what the result was. We also track our referral system. So if a student received a referral and part of the work was a restorative conversation, that would be included in the record keeping.
And it would show that they participated. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I just want to add that that's also something we do at Hauk. We use Synergy, student contact log, and also that's one area that we want to grow to make it more easier for teachers and staff to see, okay, this conversation took place. It's just figuring out how exactly to do that. But we're going to do it.
Can I ask a follow-up question? The reason I'm kind of insisting on the family piece is not that right now we do, at least in future we may want to think of. We have so many different cultural background and cultural thing. We are using the restorative practice. The way I see it, it's not a separate practice. It can't be a standalone. It has to be part of the culture and things like that, because that's how we say it started in indigenous communities. And since we have so many different cultural groups, and often from I've heard, listened to families is there are some cultural misunderstandings sometimes of what would be considered a culturally norm behavior, or certain communities are collective community, the collective culture like Pacific Islanders, etc. So then we have a behavioral specialist who is using the 5 R's as your agreed upon culture or community norms in your school. So the question is, at some point in time, can we find a way to say this is the community norm in our school and get, at least in the, say, community family meetings or family gatherings, help them understand, even if it is not involved on a regular basis, at least understand saying, when you come to school, this is the expected norm and this is how we practice. If there is clearly articulated, which all of our schools follow, then it becomes easy. Otherwise, I wonder if that misunderstanding sometimes leads to disparities in referrals to principal or discipline, etc., which we see in the data, right? Suspension, expulsion, or whatever it is.
Yeah, thanks for that input. One thing that just thinking about culturally responsive schools, our principals a couple of years ago really spent a lot of time on culturally responsive leadership and what that looks like in the school, and what it means to honor students' cultures and cultural norms. And so my thought is that there's like a synergistic effect where we have the training that we're continually doing with our staff, whether it's around culturally responsive school leadership and bringing that into the classrooms as well. But also that paired with giving students the space to process helps students share more about who they are, and helps behavior specialists, principals, teachers get a deeper understanding of who students are when there is instances that happen in schools.
I quickly want to add at Hauk, we have a team, behavior specialists, counselor, and the administrators. And sometimes when I'm working with a student and there's a discipline issue, parents come and meet with me, and I facilitate a restorative circle with the parent, mom, dad, and the student, because sometimes they need that, but they don't know how to get to it. So that's how I'm slowly starting to get that process started at Hauk.
My only thing is, sometimes we come as immigrants, we don't know what is expected in the school system, or even as parents, even I didn't know when our little kids were going to school. So we assume, and some of us are kind of embarrassed to say, so we just nod, doesn't mean we completely get it. And because we want to be polite or something like that, or in some cultures we don't speak assertively in front of teachers who are looked up, like, the difference thing. So it really would be helpful for a lot of our communities to understand in the school, this is what is expected. Like in workplace, you have norms, you sign and say agreement is there, right? We all know how you can work. So if there is some kind of, at least a guidelines,
I really appreciate
it becomes easy to restore back to that standard. Otherwise, sometimes we don't know what we are restoring back to and what's the baseline.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that input, and what I'll do is I'll bring that back to our leaders. Yeah.
Right, Director Carson, I believe, question?
So I have just a few more just around the kind of the operational side. How the remaining schools, like I know you listed that there's certain schools that got the more formalized training and were onboarded initially, and that probably most schools are using some level of these practices at this point. I know in my first couple of years now, learning all of this, there does seem to be a sense from various educators across the district that not everyone is fully trained up on all the practices. I don't know, what schools are, if that's fully true, but I just wondered from your perspective, is there a more formalized sort of plan that you're going to be rolling out that then does like I know it's going to take time, many years probably, but like a multi-year expectation for when the district would be fully functional in this area, and looking at continuous improvement?
Yeah, thank you. That's a fair question and a good question. So this year, we're, like I mentioned in one of the last slides, we're differentiating our the way that we're utilizing restorative practices, and that's really based on the communicated needs of our elementary leaders versus the needs of our secondary leaders. What they do is they do like a needs assessment at the end of the year, and then we try to provide the right resources to match the need. So with the restorative practices, our secondary teams will be working with ISLA. So ISLA is a group out of the University of Oregon. On a tangent, I worked with ISLA when I was a principal back in the South Valley. So, and they are very strong research-based, very practical. Some of the questions that I think Osvaldo was asking around, Director Avila was asking around around restorative practice, or around documentation and repeated offenses. They use mechanisms that help track that and then get and customize schools' next steps based on that. And so, again, we're hoping that with using ISLA, the ISLA group will be able to, or by partnering with them, will be able to better differentiate and meet schools where they need. And that's for our middle schools and high schools. And so that's where we are in terms of the actual training, and we're hoping to get more traction. One thing to share also is that that scaled rollout really helped us understand what did and didn't work for our students in our schools. So now we have a pretty good baseline, and we feel like there's preparedness in our schools to be a little bit more broad in our rollout of restorative, or expansion of restorative practices.
And I have a question on this, just for I guess it's a two-parter, right? What I hear is that there are staff and professionals across the district, laid out the list of who within the school have been trained, and so they've received pieces of the puzzle, right? Like, I guess some training, but then how it actually is implemented looks different across schools, and it's essentially in a way that fits the school, the community, the culture of that school, and perhaps the needs specific to that school. That's what I hear. And so, but I've also heard this evening this concept around restorative practices being supplemental to the repair dynamic that happens in schools and in relationships after an incident or conflict or whatever that might be. And my question is then, is the work of restorative practices then supplemental, or is it intended or envisioned to be at some point foundational to the repair of these incidents? And have we unfairly focused on restorative practices as a community and as a board on like the all-star of what we can lean on when it comes to discipline incidents? So couple tiers on that, but I just want to be clear on where are we, what are we really talking about, so that we can, I guess, check our expectations.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's supplemental when you look at the school, the classroom practices that we have, in that they're not tier one throughout every single building yet, but they're essential and they're foundational when it comes to our behavior specialists and our principals, who primarily work with our students, utilizing those practices as a routine whenever there's an incident that occurs. So now that all of our behavior specialists have been trained, all of our principals have been trained, we're going to continue to expand on that and refine that. And that's the foundation of solving any student conflict or student to teacher conflict or staff conflict sometimes. Did I answer your question? I feel like you're wanting more.
I see Superintendent Castañeda. I feel like add something to
Okay.
add there. So I think it adds, it answers that piece, but it's, maybe, because what I hear is it's foundational to how I guess within schools behavior is addressed by behavioral specialists, counselors, some admin.
It's both behavior, but it's also to some extent like SEL because especially since there's relationship building in these there's relationship building with students and helping students kind of understand where they are by doing this processing with them. So from that standpoint, it's also a prevention tool, and it's an access tool for a student to know that they can talk with a trusted adult like a teacher or a behavior specialist because they've been given the tools of how to understand how an incident is impacting them, or they're understanding their response and being more reflective on their response to an incident.
Yeah, Director Hudson and Director Theory. Director Richardson hasn't spoken and she has her hand up, so if you don't mind, I'll hand it to her back. It just hasn't had a chance.
I don't have a question.
Okay.
I have a suggestion. I'd really like to see our student advisory group go through practice training and also help to facilitate.
Thank you.
Director Hudson.
It was just how it's determined, which schools are doing that. And I was curious where I could find the list of the remainder. So we talked about some being here and clip 14, and then it looks like it's kind of ongoing. So how does, I don't know if it's the principal, decide to adapt that? I imagine that it's shared with all of them. Do you have any feedback on that? Or?
So the remainder of schools using restorative practices is that, excuse me?
Sounds like it's an ongoing additive list, but more pertinently, my question was also is how is it determined whether or not a school adapts practice or not?
Yeah, it's based on the school improvement plan. This is what we call it, a CSIP, the school improvement plan that a principal builds in partnership with their level director, and then they determine to what extent they'll implement restorative practices or use ISLA as part of their school improvement plan.
Thank you.
Chair, can I? Thank you, Chair. So, I mean, this is almost like a culture norm setting practice. It can be applied at every level you can think of, right? So my question is, if we were to scale it up in our entire school district, how would you see the implementation plan, or over how many years would you see this need to be scaled up? What kind of budget we'll have to be talking over the years, next budget setting, and how many, what, because rather than a standalone staff, everybody can have this skill set to practice at every level. That's what I'm hearing from you.
Yeah, I don't really know. I don't have the answer to that in terms of how many years it'll take. We just know that we need to have a system to constantly monitor and then determine schools' preparedness and determine how to move forward with our implementation plans.
Are there any school district nationally who they have completely like 100% or 80% implemented restorative practice as their school? Like there are schools which have like, trauma-informed schools. Are there any schools that in the nation that we can at least get a sense for our size? How does that look like?
Yeah, there are schools or large school districts that are comparable who have implemented restorative practice to a greater extent than we have, and we can review that. We can review the journeys of those schools and learn from them.
All right, I'm taking a look on the. Anyone over here have any questions or comments? No pressure, supervisor. All right. All right. Any additional? I don't see any on this side. Superintendent, I'll toss it back to you is there anything you'd like to add as we close off this evening? And if not, then we're out of here.
I would really just like to thank our principals for joining us tonight, sharing so much of your hard work. And thank the board for so much attention on this. It really does deserve our time as a school district. And I'll take one sort of last pass, I believe, Chairperson, at your question about whether we've over-focused on it. I don't know that I can answer the question whether we've over-focused on it, but I do believe that changing fundamental mindset in youth and adults is slow, hard work. And it does yield dividends, so it deserves our sustained attention, but we can't expect it to mature faster than the pace of the people who are doing that work every day and learning to get better at it. And we may not have over-focused on it, but a common instinct around this is to expect it to be perfect and yielding those results faster than is sometimes possible in the real life.
Thank you, Superintendent. And I had in my notes here as I was listening from Principal Queering also in the thoughts of, youth and students being ready for that repair and thinking about what it takes right at the early learning, like K-5 stages to work on that social emotional, to create and to focus on empathy, to create an ability to self-reflect, to work on that emotional intelligence, all which are building blocks to get to this possibility of restorative practices. So thank you for stating that. I totally agree. It is slow work, and it's just kind of checking, I think even for myself, okay, like checking my expectations of where we are and that this is continuous work, that it is continuous improvement that we continue to seek. And learn from you, from, who are in the buildings, and as principals, learn from the teachers and the staff that are there, and of course, ultimately from the students and the youth who are in their schools, right, who are engaged in this as well. So with that, thank you so much also, Dr. Udosinata.
Phenomenal.
And with that, we will go ahead and adjourn today's meeting. Thanks.